Hi and welcome to Free Excel tutorial videos. In today's lesson, I'm going to demonstrate the difference between choosing an absolute and relative cell references when you're recording a macro. So let's begin, okay? Most of the time, people will tend to make three mistakes when they are recording a macro. The first mistake is not choosing the active cell that they want to record the macro. So the first thing you need to do is to move to a specific cell before you want to record your macro. So let's say I want my macro to be recorded here. I need to move my to this cell before I start recording the macro. The second mistake is not choosing if they are using the relative references or absolute references. Okay, so let's come over to the developer tab, and here is the use relative references. So if you press on this icon over here, it will be highlighted. Okay, so this is an on and off function for you when you record the macro. Okay, the third mistake is the failure to differentiate using the enter key or the control plus enter when you are recording a macro. Okay, I'm going to show you what is it all about. So let's come over here to a random cell and make mistake number one. Remember, I'm making the mistake on purpose. So now let's not select the use relative references. Okay, what I will do is I want to record the name of my company, and I want to apply some formatting to it. So I'm going to come over here to the developer tab, and I'm going to start click on record macro. Okay, so in this dialog box, I'm going to name my macro my company, and for the shortcut key I'm going to use shift N, and I will leave the rest as it is and click OK. So now at this moment we are recording the macro. Okay, so for the mistake number one, I did not select the specific cell where I want the macro. So I'm I'm going to go to the cell right now, and the macro is actually recording this movement to the specific cell. Okay, also notice that uh, I did not differentiate between the absolute or relative references. Okay, so by default the absolute references is switched on. Okay, so now I'm going to type in my company name. Let's just type my company, comma LLC. Okay, and then I'm going to now the third mistake of this not using the control enter is when recording macro. Okay, is they do not understand if whether either they do not understand they can use this button, which is equivalent to the control plus enter. So by clicking this, we can maintain the focus on this particular cell. Okay, but I'm going to press control plus enter, so you can see that Excel maintains the focus on this specific cell. So now I want to apply the bold and italic format. So let's go to the home tab and apply bold and italic format to the cell. Okay, at this point, let's stop recording the macro. So let's go back to the developer tab and stop recording macro. Okay, so the macro is done. So now we want to see if the macro is works. So let's delete this. Okay, if you use Control Z, you will not be able to delete this. Let's do this. Okay, you won't be, oh, you can. Okay, so I have here, the macro is done. Um, but the formatting will still be there. Yeah. Okay, so we need to come this cell. We have to go to the home tab, and we need to clear the content. Okay, so now let's go to any random cell over here and try to run our macro. So remember that I purposely make some mistakes when I create the macro. So let's go to the developer tab and go to the macro. You can see I have this macro here, and let's run it. Okay, so this my company, it appears here in this cell over here. Okay, as you can see, it came to the absolute cell where I recorded the macro. Okay, but this perhaps is not what I want, because if I click somewhere else, let's say I click here and I run the macro, it will go back to that cell. Okay, I might want to use the macro on another cell. So let's come back here now and delete this. And if you use undo, you won't be able to delete it. So if you press delete, yes you can, but you have to come over here to the home tab. The best thing is to come over to the home tab, select the cell, and go to this eraser over here and clear all. Okay, now let me show you the advantages of using the relative references when you record a macro. So let's go to the developer tab. Okay, and I want to activate use relative references. So let's activate this one, and let's start recording the macro. Okay, let's come to this cell over here and click on record macro. Okay, I'm gonna name my macro my company 2. For the shortcut, I'm going to use Control Shift A, and the rest I'm going to just leave it as it is and click OK. So now it's recording the macro. So I'm going to type here my company LLC. Okay, and I'm going to press Control. Remember, Control Enter to maintain the focus on the cell. I'm going to apply as well. Let's go to the Home tab and apply bold, italic, as well as change the color. And I'm going to change the font type as well to, let's see, script. Okay, and also change the size to 12 points. Okay, so now at this point I want to stop recording the macro. So let's go back to the developer tab and click on stop recording. Okay, so at this point I have stopped recording the macro. So next we want to run the macro, but before that let's delete all the formatting content in this cell. So let's go back to the home tab, go to the eraser and clear all. Okay, so now let's go to a different cell over here, and now I'm going to run the macro. So let's go back to the developer tab and click on macro. You can see I have the second macro here and run it. So you can see the macro appeared on this cell. Okay, so unlike the first macro, it had to be on this specific cell over here, but for the second macro it can be in any cell that I want. Okay, because we are using the relative references. Okay, so if I come over here to this cell and run macro, I can have my company name display over here. So if I come over here and do the same, I can have my company name being displayed over here. Okay, so now you learn that when you record a macro, avoid using the mistake of using the absolute reference. Okay, instead what you should really be using is the relative cell reference in most cases. Okay, you should use this one. Okay, so that you can apply your macro in any cell that you want later on. And also to remember to use Control Enter when you're recording a macro, because it will allow you to maintain focus on the cell that you are working on. Okay, so that is how you can distinguish the difference between absolute and relative cell references when you record a macro. Okay, so that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.